Welcome once again to the Party of One podcast, the actual play RPG podcast where the gaming table is always set for two. I'm your host as always, Jeff Stormer. This week on the show, I am joined once again by Puja for another incredible game of C-Issue X by Chris Longhurst. C-Issue X is a role-playing game about the convoluted continuity of superhero comic books and the lives of the people who write them. It is a single-player or co-op role-playing game where you take a deck of cards and drawing cards and assigning them to statements one at a time, you tell the story of the ongoing elaborate history of a popular superhero comic book. And as you do that, you physically, with whiteout and markers, deface a deck of playing cards, creating a living record of the convoluted history that this comic book represents. As marked cards come back into rotation to answer new prompts, the story continues to cycle in on itself, and we get this elaborate, complicated thing that I love so much that is a good superhero comic book storyline. I genuinely love this game. There's a reason that we're playing it twice. The act of defacing a deck of cards is just so appealing and transgressive, and like the superhero storytelling is so on point. This game rules. I love it. You can find it at potatocubed.itch.io or check the show notes for more information. Now, Puja is, of course, a tremendously talented TTRPG performer and streamer. I've been lucky enough to play a bunch of games with her over at Flights of Fandom on Manapot Studios' Twitch channel, which is an ongoing weekly fan fiction tabletop RPG stream where we take copyrighted worlds and we tell better stories than the cowardly owners of those copyrights ever will. Also over on Manapot Studios, Puja plays on Streets of Gotham, which is an ongoing game about henchmen in Gotham City, you know, getting into shenanigans, which genuinely, it's really fucking good. Like, I don't know how else to say it. And also, Puja is regularly working on a myriad other projects that she talks about during the episode, and also that you can find information on in the show notes. Now, as I mentioned, this is a special sequel episode. This is our crossover comic book event special. If you want to get the full story and get introduced to the characters that Puja and I are playing, I recommend you go check out the other C-Issue X episode of the show where we introduce our characters, GAMNA and the CICADA, and we kind of give them an initial story, and this is sort of our big, the characters are coming together for a crossover moment. It's a great episode. Now, before we begin, there are a few things that I want to say. First, on behalf of myself and Party of One, I want to say that we stand in full support of our friends, peers, and colleagues in the Writers Guild of America as they fight for better pay, better working conditions, and a better path forward in the industry. And furthermore, I would like to encourage you, if you're listening to this episode, you have the financial means to do so, and you'd like to support the strike, to go to bit.ly/entertainment fund, and make a donation to the Entertainment Community Fund. This is a fund that specifically supports those in the cast and crew of shows that have been impacted by the writer's strike, that helps them pay bills, rent, and stay afloat while the strike is ongoing. Simply go to bit.ly/entertainment fund, select film and television, and make a donation. If you do this, send me proof of a donation of any amount to partyofonepodcast@gmail.com, and I've got some games and goodies that I can share with you. It is the least that I can do to support the strike. As always, thank you for listening and thank you for your support. And with all that said, let's go ahead and throw it over to me in the past so that he can get started with the show. Take it past me. Thanks, future me. This week I am so excited to be sitting down once again with Puja. Puja, thank you so much for coming back on Party of One.
I'm so glad to be here again, Jeff.
We ended our last game of C-Issue X, and I was like, it was the top of my mind. I was like, we got to get another session on the calendar sooner than later, and then it finally came around on the editing calendar, and I was like, oh yeah, I should actually really commit to doing this, and I'm really glad that I did. I've been looking forward to this. Before we get into some superhero shenanigans, why don't you take a moment and let our lovely listeners at home know about what you've got going on that you might want them to know about?
Well, the main things I have going on a fairly consistent basis is that every Saturday I play in a fantastic queer horror D&D 5e campaign in a homebrew world at an all-queer table. The game's called Strange Hungers. It's been on for about a year, and it's on the Total Party Kiss Twitch channel. Other than that, every other Wednesday, I'm on Nat 1 Fun doing a Feywild campaign. I'm running Feywild. And then, other than that, you can usually find me poking my head in and or around Manapot Studios, doing the Streets of Gotham game, which is currently on hiatus between seasons. We just wrapped that up yesterday. Otherwise,
I was about to say I was excited to hear the season had wrapped up.
Yes.
I really like Streets of Gotham is the thing.
Ooh. It was a very intense finale. And then, of course, Flights of Fandom. where you can sometimes find me, and you can sometimes find my buddy Jeff.
Absolutely. It's funny that we're recording this on a Tuesday night, which is usually when we would be doing Flights of Fandom, so I've got a little bit of deja vu.
Yeah.
But yeah, we are coming back to our C issue X world. What we are doing briefly is we are creating a convoluted superhero storyline where we are going to be drawing cards, permanently defacing those cards with whiteout and markers, and then using those cards to inspire beat by beat our delightfully confusing superhero comic book stories. When last we left our heroes, Genma Mulhane and the Cicada are two heroes coming into a crossover story together. You had gained the ability to turn into a white tiger and channel a sense of predatory silence, which you used to great effect to stand up against the literal gods of the cosmos because the goddess of prosperity wanted to close off Earth and allow the eternal archivist to silence all of humanity once and for all. You stood up to the gods, you defied their wishes, and with the help of the cicada, a Kansas farmer swallowed by a cloud of otherworldly bugs and turned into a swirling sort of chaos god, we collectively burned the Eternal Archivist's library to the ground and brought voices back to the people of Earth. Our dramatic cliffhanger at the end of that story, leading into our next big arc, was the cicada staring you down in that supernatural character shows up in a superhero storyline, eyes glowing, and says, "We have more work to do. This was just the beginning." And that brings us to where we are starting our story. We have some arcs to choose from, but we discussed last time our first arc this time around is a crossover event. Something big is coming. Something so dangerous and all-encompassing it's going to affect everyone on Earth and perhaps even elsewhere in the universe. We are going to team up. This is an arc specifically designed for multiple players, so we are going to team up and tell the story of what happens when we cross over and face down a threat together.
Alrighty. So
the first thing I'm going to have you do is draw up to 2 fresh cards from your deck of any 2 different suits.
Okay.
So I'm going to add the 5 of diamonds and the 9 of spades to my deck.
I have the King of Hearts and the 2 of Clubs.
All right, and then I'm going to shuffle my deck of cards. And we are going to collectively... Let me just remind myself.
Hear the juicy noises of me shuffling cards.
It's part of the joy. It's part of the experience. It's part of the ambiance.
All right, I'm all shuffled.
And I am reminding myself exactly how multiplayer... Okay, got it. Whenever we're going to draw a card, we are going to draw one more card than listed on the prompt. We are going to then take turns drawing prompts, and we will equally draw a number of prompts from our deck. So if it says to draw 1 card, we will each draw 1 card. If it says to draw 3 cards, we will draw 4 cards, and then each of us will draw 2 cards to make that 4 cards.
Okay, makes sense.
We are going to each draw 1 card and assign it to one of the following statements. We have Spades, the menace is this writ large, tied to this or originates from this. Hearts, this person is instrumental in the creation of the menace, its arrival, or its continuance. Diamonds, the menace embodies either the antithesis of this value or embodies its value taken to dangerous extremes. Or Spades, the menace makes its first appearance here or from here or because of this.
Ooh, I hope I get a diamond. I don't know why. I like the antithesis, or this taken too far. All right, I have drawn a card.
What card have you drawn?
I have drawn the Ace of Diamonds.
Ooh, is there anything written on the card?
There is a lot written on this card.
What do we got?
So first I have at the very top, it says greater good over personal desires. And then on one side, it says the god of dreams. And then on the other side, it says the planet has got to go.
So, the menace embodies the antithesis of this value or this value taken to dangerous extremes.
So I feel like the value at hand is greater good over personal desires.
That feels right.
Okay. So
what do we think that looks like?
Okay, I feel like taking this to an extreme is almost too real, so I want to flip it.
Yeah.
So I want to do, what does it look like? Well, I feel like in every way this can be too real. Hyper-individualistic? or hyper communal.
I think hyper individualistic, if I can tip the scales, is more interesting to me, because that feels very good and very sort of like that feels comic book villainy to me, right?
Yeah.
I alone am going to take control of the universe, and also that means that by the end of our story, you and I are going to get to punch some fascists, and that's never a bad feeling.
No.
So, my card, now this is interesting, and I really have to sit with like how I want this to work. Because my card is the Seven of Hearts. This person is instrumental to the creation of the menace, its arrival, or its continuance. And I've drawn the Seven of Hearts, which has on it the cicada's husband, Henry Cyrus. So I'm trying to decide how I want this to play out. What is the vibe that I want to chase here? I am going to, because I don't want to turn my partner evil necessarily.
Yeah.
I think what it is instead. Okay, I have a pitch for you.
Okay.
Taking both of these prompts to their logical conclusion. Is this because in our first episode there was a whole thing where there was like a time loop that had affected my small town in Kansas, and the way that we beat it was through like collective mutual aid.
Mm-hmm.
It was all very like everyone in this together. Is there a mirror inversion of that tricked my partner into allowing it into the world that is a being powered solely by the most corrupted vision of individualism, and is coming specifically to take me out and take my place?
That is interesting. I mean, your town right now is the antithesis of that extreme individualism, right? Because collective mutual aid was the solution to a problem. So you would think that it's still a very helpful,
that's the culture.
communal.
It's the culture of the town that has taken shape, right?
Yes. So I can see it being, what if this like grandiose villain decided to start out there? Be like, if I can turn this town of sweet, kind, helpful people into rugged individualists, that's in quotes, what else can I do?
I love this. I love this truly. I like the idea. I think that our opening sequence, what we see in our opening sequence is, it's not necessarily, I don't want to make it literally like a full-on inversion, because I think that's a little bit less exciting to me than something new and wild that we can just throw things at the wall to make up.
Yeah.
I think that it did take the form of the cicada, and like in a way to kind of like encourage Henry to kind of let his husband back into the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in doing so, then like stepped through, shed the disguise, and then put this supernatural curse onto the city, the town of Morrison, Kansas. And I think what it is, a vibe of like the vibe that I get, the visual that I get, is literally every person seems to be the the idea that like all other people have been removed from the world. Like every other person is the every person is in this sort of half mirror dimension where they are the only person on Earth.
Wow. That is I love that. That is very intense, and yeah, that's going to make for some interesting story bits, and would justify why someone who is so into mutual aid and collective, action to help each other out would suddenly stop.
That's so cool. And like, I think this is the first issue of an event comic, right? So like, I think that I would like to take this to the furthest possible extreme and build to a beat with the two of us. Because you have just stood up for the Earth and for all of humanity and for like the spirit of everyone, and then the cicada showed up and was like, we have work to do.
Mm-hmm.
In that moment, I think I want to play out what this scene looks like a little bit. Like in that moment, we look, or like you and I both look around, I kind of knowingly and you seeing it for the first time. that, like, we together are the only, like, appear to be the only two people in the world. Like, I think it has spread to the entire world, and that we are isolated from everyone, staring around us in the ruins of this supernatural library that has, with this curse of solitude that has taken over the planet. What does your reaction to that look like?
As a reminder, am I in human form or tiger form?
You tell me. I think this is the moment of the issue. I think that we as writers have some creative license to put that to the test. Whatever you think is the more interesting option.
Well, then of course we have to go for the more graphic option because, like, I mean, we're both Sandman fans. Like, what would Sandman do? And it would 100% be the cicada in this, like, you know, cloudy amorphous form, and then this giant white tiger.
Oh yeah.
Padding alongside.
Great last splash. Like we get the double page spread, and we see that the world is, like, desolate and abandoned, and there is this haze over everything, and then we see this like single page spread of standing in the farm shirt and the jeans with the bugs floating around, and the giant white tiger, hands in my pockets, just muttering, "Looks like it's time to go to work."
Any idea what this is?
No, but it took my home and it took the love of my life, so I'm going to tear it limb from limb. You in?
Hell yeah.
All right. I like how, like, there is a dynamic there, like, that immediately establishes a dynamic that I really thoroughly enjoy, which is, like, kind of the inversion of the like the heroes buck against each other, which is that, like, we're both like, somebody needs to get their ass kicked. I think that we're both going to be the person to do it.
Yeah, this might be a sign that we've played too many superhero games together.
No, never, no such thing. I love it to death.
No such thing. Yeah, no. Sometimes people just need their butts kicked.
Sometimes you just gel with someone over the fact that you're going to tear someone limb from limb.
Hell yeah.
All right. So now the world knows, which is a really interesting turn of phrase from the book that reflects the situation that people are in. Everybody's got an opinion. So we are going to draw 3 cards. Would you like to draw 1 card or 2?
I'll do 1.
Okay, then I will draw 2 cards. And we will assign our 3 cards to the statements below. Interesting choice. Oh, interesting picks. I got the Ace of Diamonds and the 8 of Diamonds.
And just to recap, this is from our pulled out deck, right? Not fresh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This is from our marked up deck and or the blank cards that we added to that deck.
I got the 10 of clubs.
All right. I'll answer the first question. The 2 diamonds questions. You do your best to help people affected by the menace even when information is unclear. You are pressured to abandon this because of the immediacy of the menace. See, both of my cards are marked up, and both of it feels very natural. I'm going to go with pressure to abandon this first, because I want to hear your answer after this.
Okay.
You're pressured to abandon this because of the immediacy of the menace. The thing that I have this card marked with, and the pressure of this, is a world of mystery.
Oh.
And that is immediately very compelling to me.
Yeah.
It truly is like how can anyone fight this? You know what I mean? Like, how do you, like, there is no amount of mutual aid. Like, there's no amount of mutual aid. If you suddenly wake up the last person on Earth, there is no amount of, like, sticking it out that is going to work. Like, you are truly on your own. And perhaps, let me ask you this. How does the menace capitalize on that feeling of, I am lost and alone in a world where there is no one else? Because that'll give us a picture of, like, who this villain is.
I think the menace is making people realize that the menace is almost this old-timey individualism come back, which is that the only person you can rely on is yourself. And it has chosen this facade of being alone because maybe that's the only way to get people to think that they are alone. And it's one of those things where, like, either you can waste away or you can pick yourself up by your bootstraps or whatever. Yes.
Yeah.
Also heavy quotes, by the way. And the menace is manipulating the world and the emotions of the people within it in order to get them to the end point it needs.
See, now that is super interesting to me. Like, that rips. And that rips because, like, what I think that we see, we're leaning hard into the Sandman aesthetic here. I think that maybe we even get, like, a full issue where we see this from the perspective of, like, a person, right? We see this from the perspective of an ordinary person, where what we see is, like, the world as time goes on gets more exaggeratedly like, it becomes like a funhouse mirror of the world that you inhabit, right? It's kind of, you know, day one you're just on your own, so you've kind of got to figure out where you get food. Day two, suddenly every trek is a little bit further, and suddenly, like, you know, the birds are flying a little closer to your head, and day three they start swooping at you, and you're suddenly, like, having to fight things off, and it becomes this, like, very increasingly sort of over the top, you know, everything is against you vibe that is pushing people into this place of, like, increasingly surreal paranoia, right? Like, the world is becoming increasingly against you, and you are the only person in it.
It's almost like every single person is in their own pressure cooker.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great way to put it. That feels great. And it's just ticking up and up and up every single day.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We have two questions for a card marked clubs. We have two questions. Either the menace tears this apart early on, or the menace transforms this place into something new. And we are going to reflect on what that card has become.
So this card was marked co-op.
Interesting. And I believe was this the co-op that you worked at, or a co-op that you lived with?
I don't remember. Let's go
I
with
don't remember
either.
I think it was lived with. I think you had roommates. I think that was what it was.
And I like this. Oh man, this is beautiful. Because what better place than an intentional shared living, working, communal space to take over and rip apart. So I actually like the idea of the menace transforming what was once good. So I like the idea of the second option, which is that the menace transforms this into something new. So it went from a residential co-op where, well, this is an idealistic world. These people chose to live together.
Mm-hmm.
It was not due to economic hardship or capitalism. But so yeah, a bunch of people were choosing to live together and be family to one another. And in this siloed pressure cooker space, how does it get transformed? I can see it becoming almost, in a way, it could become a seat of power for the menace, because you have in one space so many different, in terms of just like living supplies, things within reach. If you have like 6 or 7 professional adults living in one space, each one of them doing different things, that's access to multiple information systems. That is access to, like, I can just see like the menace using all of this information of all these people in one small space to start anew from there.
I get and vision of like this place becoming like this epicenter, and it becoming a place where like the lives of a number of people were visible in this one location.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see that, you know, becoming in this supernatural transformation of the world. I can see that becoming like the TV room, right? Where you just have like you have windows into every person on Earth in their individual solitary hellscape. Like you like that vision of multiple lives becomes a vision of every life in the world swirling into one place.
And I don't know if this makes sense, but I was also kind of tempted to take it a little further in that the people, the individuals who lived there, being so close to the heart of it, could almost be the next, like the people immediately below the menace in whatever future organization this menace is trying to create. Like,
that's really interesting.
all of these people, because they all in their own way have access to the same things. So the menace can deputize them all at once, but they all think they're alone.
That's great. That's fantastic. That's amazing. I think I'm starting to get a picture of what I think this menace might look like and what their style might be.
Ooh.
I am envisioning a little bit like that vibe of like watching all of these individual worlds on screen and watching all of these people like suffer in solitude and face, challenge greater and greater and greater. The vibe I get is a little bit like Arcade from X-Men, where you're like putting people through, game show challenges.
Yeah.
And I'm picturing like I'm gonna go with one of my favorite like aesthetic-y tropes, which is can I propose that they have a TV for a head? TV for head, always great.
Always
and never
great.
don't pop. Never don't pop for a TV for a head.
Here's my question.
Yeah.
Is it an old school box TV?
Gotta
or
be an
is it
old
a flat screen?
I was gonna say it's gotta be an old school box TV, but I also kind of love like a big wide, like as wide as its shoulders, flat screen TV.
Yeah. And then when they turn to the side, it's just like
you just see the line?
Yes.
Great. You know what? You've sold me. Great aesthetic. And I picture their outfit being that kind of mock military, like the superhero version of like mock military finery with like a big gold epaulet and the shoulder cape that runs down the other side.
Ooh, what color?
Like, picturing red cape, gold epaulets.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's is it like a navy blue base?
Mm-hmm.
That feels good. That's like and it's got this, very like mockingly ceremonial looking out, or mockingly like pomp and circumstance looking outfit as it is a being that's existence is testing your will and making you into the star of your own show.
Oh, yes. It has you convinced that you are the only hope.
Yeah.
Every single one of these people.
That's great. And so then I have a question. So then I have my last question. And the card could not be more perfect. But it's gonna set us up for a scene that I kind of want to see how each of us plays out in this moment.
Okay.
Because the question is, you do your best to help people affected by the menace, even when information is unclear. And the card is the Ace of Diamonds, which is marked with the phrase, people, it's always people. So it could not have been a more perfect, draw card combo. So I want to set the scene and play this scene space out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
What does it look like when the two of us arrive in a space where someone is the only person in the world, and how do we help them? How do we help them out and remind them that there are other people that are there to help them to kind of hold on to a piece of the universe?
That is very interesting, because my first instinct is they are in this silo made of illusion. And so what is our way of breaking that illusion? And so in typical superhero fashion, my first thought was a reminder, a memento. They have gone so far down this path of I'm the only one here, I'm only alone, that honestly, I feel like a proof of life could be something that starts to crack.
That's great. That does rule. And I think in true superhero fashion, delivering that to them, whoever this person is, it's somebody in one of our lives. Do we want it to be your grandmother? Do you want it to be my husband? Do you want it to be your on again, off again girlfriend?
I would like it to be your husband.
Okay, that feels good, because the card is out here, the card is sitting in front of me, and that's very nice. In true superhero fashion, getting this memento to my husband is something that takes the both of us, like, fighting our way through stuff,
Yes.
right? Like,
Yeah.
it's got to involve. So, like, what exaggerated, monstrous image of, like, Kansas farm life do you have to fight as a supernatural white tiger? And feel free, and just, how sick does it look?
Oh, man. What if it's a venomized super dude? Like, super dude given the venom treatment, right? Where it's this person who should be heroic and should be a beacon of hope, but has turned into this is the strongest man and no one can mess with him.
That's great.
Yeah. And I love this person just being a twisted beacon of, because individualism is great in as far as it can empower people, that even I, a random person off the street, have power to change. Like, that is great. What is that taken to its worst extreme? My power to make change is so strong, no one else can do it.
I love this so much. And if I can paint this picture, like, we've seen these sequences of Henry, like, making his way through all of this and, like, refusing to give up hope. He's like, Hank is coming for me. I think my name was Hank. If not, that's Hank now, and that's what we're going with.
Henry and Hank, I love it.
So Henry, like, or no, it was Jerry. It was Jerry Cyrus, was what it was. Yep, it was Jerry Cyrus. So he's like, Jerry's coming for me. Jerry is the love of my life. He is powerful enough to stop whatever this is, and he's coming for me. And finally, in a sequence in the comic book, which is very deliberately designed, there is like a very obvious Superman parody lands, because it is like, farm boy, last hope, desperate planet, doomed scientists, like, lands, and like we see this very blatant, over the top drawn Superman parody has landed, like, I've come to save the world, and if you are not with me, you are against me, and I will tear down anyone that stands against me. And his eyes are sunken, his posture is like a little slouched, like he has like given up that piece of hope, and he is like standing, almost just like looks exhausted, and is standing in front of Henry, as Henry is like trying to race back to the farmhouse, and he starts to like get up and flex and, twist his arm around. How do we enter the scene in this moment as he starts to move towards Henry?
As he starts to move towards Henry, we see a small rustle in the side in the cornfield, because of course there's a cornfield.
There's got to be a cornfield.
Of course. And what we then find out is that our two protagonists have been watching Henry, trying to figure out how to get through, trying to figure out how to let him know they're there. And honestly, in some ways, this Nega Superman is one of our first sightings of somebody making contact with Henry. And that is enough. That is enough for us to fly into action. And so the next thing you see is a tiger pouncing across what should not be possible in terms of an amount of space to barrel directly into this baddie. And they take a rumble together, which, I mean, it's a beautiful image.
Oh, it's gorgeous. And a thing that I remember that you had established last time is that sense of like predatory silence, like when a cat is about to strike. I remember we described it last time as like the word bubbles and sound effects like fall out when you are pouncing into action. So there is this sequence of this fight scene as you brawl your way through the corn and, the barn and all of these things that is all just drawn like completely silently and like impressionistically.
Yes.
It's gorgeous. It's so it is beautiful to see it spread out on the page.
You see the motion lines, but there's no sounds.
Yeah, it's great. And I think as that is happening, and I think the thing that we're seeing is like, as that is happening, we are seeing panels interspersed with this fight scene of like the moments of Henry and Jerry's life. We see them dating, we see them go to the farm fair together, and we see them look at a cow. We see them get married, like we see them we see them like the day they bought the farm, they're holding hands, there's a little ribbon in front of the barn door. And like we see a cloud of cicadas washing over Jerry as he gets turned into the cicada. And finally, like as you put down this Superman, and I think like you rip into his flesh and hay comes out, right? Like it is just a straight up scarecrow as you tear him to shreds.
Mm-hmm.
A hand goes onto Henry's shoulder and just says, "Hey babe, I'm home. Did I miss anything?" And then we get the big dramatic kiss between the two of them. It's a full page spread.
As it should be.
As of course it should be. And that is the end of that's the last. It's not the last page of the issue because I think like it's the two of it's like I walk up to you. Well, that's one down. How are we feeling?
I could do this all day.
I like you. You know that?
We do good together.
And I think as we're saying that, like, there's a cloud of bugs starting to surround us as we're preparing to, like, jump into another world. And I'm going to go so far, I'm going to throw in one final beat before we move to the next section, which is, like, the cloud of bugs swirls around us. And moments before, like, we disappear, my hand grabs the back of my collar. And it's, if you think you're going alone, you have not learned anything in the 10 years that we've been together. And then we disappear off into the ether.
Oh, gosh. We're just, like, hitting all of the properties we both enjoy, because now I'm getting very strong Pawns vibes.
It's good. It's good. We're hitting everything. It feels good. We're firing on all cylinders. I'm feeling good about this.
Yes.
Which brings us to this stops here. We are now going to engage with the menace itself. Like, this is us standing tall against the menace. We're each going to draw 2 cards. As a reminder, as you run out of cards, whenever you run out of cards, you'll just shuffle the deck and cycle them back through.
Okay.
So I am going to draw 2 cards.
And then I'm also drawing 2?
Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty.
So my cards are the Queen of Clubs, which is marked with a farmer's market, which is delightful. And then I have the Ace of Hearts, which is marked with your character.
Oh.
So we'll see how that plays out.
Yes. Let's see. I have the 3 of Hearts, which is my Nani and the family boon.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one I have is the 9 of Clubs, which is the ruin of the ruins.
Interesting. Which of these would you like to answer first?
Let's go with the ruin of the ruins, because I think we need some setting.
All right. So we've got 2 questions. You can take your pick of 2 statements for this. Either the core of the resistance to the menace is based here, or as long as this survives, the menace cannot be defeated.
I like the core of the resistance being here because I love resistance coming from visual ruin.
I do too. That's great.
Hope springing from something that should be hopeless.
I'm going to answer my other club question immediately based off of that. Because I think at this point we've gathered people together. We're hiding out in these ruins. We're seeing like encampments underground in these various like tunnels and ruined structures. And the other question, as long as this survives, the menace cannot be defeated. I think there is absolutely a sequence where all of these people are standing together and like somebody voices the question, so what do we do? What do we do now? And all eyes come to the cicada, and a cocky grin on his face is like, well, we plan an attack, we keep our spirits up, and while we're all here, and we see that, like, inside the ruins of the ruins, like, a small farmer's market or, like, swap meet type deal has broken out.
Oh, yes.
And, like, that is his way of, like, keeping spirits up, is, like, organizing a little, like, community fair type thing. Which also, like, gives me this vibe, like, of, like, this very desperate, almost hopeless sense, but also one of joy and, like, also one of joy and community. And, like, finding joy and community in those moments of desolation is a thing that, like, makes my whole heart sing. And so I'm happy to see it in this moment.
Absolutely. And what better way to encourage these people to heal from however long they were in their loneliness than to bring together the exact opposite of that, a communal gathering.
And as long as this is here, the menace cannot win.
Mm-hmm.
As long as we are bridging connections between people. All right, what's your other card?
It's my Nani. The Three of Hearts.
All right. Is this
boon.
person leading the resistance against the menace and has a plan for defeating it? Or are they uniquely equipped to defeat the menace if we can get them in the right place at the right time?
Well, I would like Nani to be able to retire. So I'm not going to drag her into the fight. So I like, in terms of like, I don't want to get her in to a right place at the right time. But I like the idea of Nani being one of the people at this little co-op, not co-op, this little farmer's market in the ruins, and I like that representing a kind of leading the resistance in terms of like Nani just like organizing the event. Oh, there's definitely a moment between Nani and the cicada where Cicada's like walking around fiddling with things and Nani like shoos him off like, you've got work to do. Go be a superhero. Go now. Go. Absolutely.
And he's like, I want to help out with the fair. I want to help out.
And Nani's like, we all have our own part to do. Let us do ours.
Yeah, that's great. What a good spin on leader of the resistance. Like it maps out perfectly, right? If this is there have to be people there to keep that spirit alive, because that's the thing that's going to allow us to defeat this menace.
Yeah. And I think we had said that this family boon that GAMNA has, Nani did have. And so, like, Nani's done her time.
Yeah.
She's done the superhero thing. She's like, now this is what I can do, and this is what I will do, and you need to get out of my hair.
And the other thing that I like about this is that it leaves the other hearts question open.
Yes.
And the way that I'm going to answer this question is, like, we see that sequence with Henry played out again in a different scenario, right? Like, there is a truck driver who is like being chased by a convoy of ghost trucks, and we watch and we see like the silhouette of a tiger like leap in through one of the doors and snatch a ghoul out of one of these trucks that disappears into dust. And we see these increasingly bizarre sequences that you are managing, and they're getting more and more dangerous, and you're getting scuffed up in some of these fights. And I think what we notice is that like Cicada is just kind of standing back and watching for most of them in a very conspicuous kind of way. Because I think we finally reach a moment where we have a confrontation. And I'd like to play out a little bit of this confrontation where, like, you have just... Tell me what you just finished doing. What absurd, like, farm or, like, rural monster did you just tear into shreds while this oddball in a flannel shirt and jeans kind of stood by and watched with bugs flying around him?
Why... Batman on my brain. Gotham on my brain, because my first thought was a reanimated scarecrow. How does that make sense? I don't know, but that's what what it is.
I am perfectly okay with this, especially if it's like, you know, that really like cartoon image of hay where it's winding and it's lashing things and grabbing things and it's become this like twirling hay monster and you've just like it is burning cinder behind you. And I think like, you know, the feeling the exhaustion and the burn in your muscles is like Cicada like walks up. Pick up the pace, kid. We got a couple more worlds to wrap up and no time to rest.
The tiger spits out a mouthful of hay. It just says, anytime you want to take over, that would be nice.
And I think like as he kind of like grins a little bit, and what you notice is like as he grins for a second, like the wind blows and he kind of goes with it a little bit. And he's like, whatever this thing is, it's taking me with it. You gotta be the one to take this thing down, kid. Like, this is your responsibility. I can get you to where the fight is happening, but breaking through these spell barriers, breaking into these different worlds, it is... And he coughs and... This is a moment where he coughs mummy style and bugs come out and like he kind of like stumbles for a bit. He's like, I should have been upfront with you, but I know that you've noticed things have been getting tougher and the fights have been getting more brutal, and that is because I have been putting you through the ringer to make sure that you are ready for this final battle when you are going to have to face it on your own.
Why? Why on my own?
And I think, like, at that, you know, you watch a particularly strong wind blow, and he almost entirely dissolves and then comes back into frame. Because I don't really know if I'm going to be there on the other side when that final fight happens. We can keep people here, we can keep this resistance alive, but there's going to be a fight. It's going to be bloody, and I might not live to see it. We need to know that we can count on you. Everyone in those ruins needs to know that when push comes to shove, we can count on you to throw that punch. Can we count on you to throw that punch?
I will be there. And I hope you are too.
Yeah, that makes two of us. You know, I kind of like this place.
Yeah.
I'm going to miss it if I don't see it on the other side.
Well, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure you do. Because Henry would kill me if I don't.
Good last line. That's it. That's issue end. Issue over. And with that, we move into our next section. In a time of crisis. Oh no, wait, we don't play in a time of crisis because this is for a solo story. This is a multiplayer section, so we are going to move right on to the aftermath. We are now going to... Okay. Here's how this is going to work now. This is actually really cool. I just read this through. I'm going to read the text because this is doing a cool and interesting thing. We are going to draw 3 cards. We're going to draw 6 cards. So we'll each draw 3 cards.
Okay.
Putting those 6 cards in front of us. We're going to take 2 of those cards each. And we are going to describe both how the fight ends. And then using these cards, we're gonna reflect on what is different coming out of the world. So it is now time for the final battle.
Okay.
I have drawn the Queen of Spades, which has chaos clouds on it, an unmarked 9 of clubs, and an unmarked 5 of diamonds.
I have the 4 of Spades, which is the goddess of prosperity. I have an unmarked King of Hearts. And I have the 5 of Hearts, which is the Cicada.
Oh, I really like that we have each other's characters in the deck. This is making for interesting possibilities.
It really does.
All right. So let's draw 1 card. I think we're gonna modify these rules slightly because I do want to see how this final showdown plays out. So we'll reflect 1 card to reflect that final showdown, and then 2 cards will reflect how things are different post-crisis event.
Okay.
So what card do you want to pull on for the final climax?
Well, the King of Hearts is unmarked. But I think I have to pull on the cicada for the conflict. You've made that what has to be done.
That feels good. That feels good. That feels good. I like that. I'm going to draw and actually modify this Queen of Spades with Chaos Clouds. So I am going to erase Chaos Clouds off of this card and write something different. Because I think that over the course of this fight, the world changes. And I think I know how I want it to change, but describe to me what role the cicada plays in the showdown that happens.
Well, the cicada has come into this fight not expecting necessarily to go home. And I think, as people are wont to do in that circumstance, the cicada is going to make decisions that only someone who knows they're not going home would make. And I see it being this thing where the tiger is fighting the menace, but the menace has been is fueled by not just the power of its deputies that we described in the co-op, but just the loneliness and the despair of a whole planet of people who think they're alone. And so the menace has, even though it's a fight and it has this silence to it, I see the menace almost turning the predatory silence that accompanies the tiger against it. Because the predatory silence, the cicada can turn, not the cicada, sorry, the menace can turn into the silence of loneliness.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
And I love the idea that the menace is pulling on these threads in GAMNA, and maybe GAMNA gets lost in the thought of a world that doesn't have the cicada in it. Like, in the midst of this battle, in the silence, it goes from being a comfortable silence that GAMNA controls to a silence without Jerry, without the cicada. And in a moment in which GAMNA threatens to be overwhelmed, I see the cicada stepping in, knowing full well that he may not survive this encounter, and saying, "You're not alone yet, kid."
Oh, and the idea of that breaking the silence, like that like on all of these silent panels, like singing that breaking through and that being like a big, prominent like dialogue bubble is gorgeous.
Yeah.
And it's actually going to make me change my answer dramatically. I'm pulling on a different card to represent this climax.
Okay.
I'm taking this unmarked 5 of diamonds and I am writing a sentence on it. Which is, diamonds represent values, they represent concepts, they represent like major themes. I have written on this card, no one isn't going home. Because I like the counter of that being, like, this is the moment where Cicada thinks that he is making this sacrifice and thinks that he is leaving this world behind. I love the visual that Cicada is like about to sacrifice himself and maybe becomes one of these clouds, right? Like fully loses his physical form and like starts to consume this menace. We should name this menace. What's a good superhero name to reflect this entity?
A name that reflects.
What if it's Spotlight?
Ooh, toxic individualism.
Yeah. We're hitting themes. We're hitting a drum is what we're doing.
Yeah.
Spotlight gets consumed by this cloud, but like in doing so, Cicada's about to lose his physical form when out of one of these moments, when out of the mists comes like a white tiger leaps into one of these clouds and out of it, carrying, very startled and complaining by the back of his collar. Henry in like carried by the back of his shirt collar like he's a baby kitten.
Yeah.
It's like I'm an adult. This is embarrassing. But like is brought through the haze, and that is the thing that forces me to like retake my form. And like allows the two of us to team up and tear this villain apart who is trying to consume the world.
Heck yeah. I love that.
So we have 2 final questions, and then we will do one more arc, and then we will call it. But we have 2 final questions. You have 2 cards in front of you. Spades represent superhero shit. Clubs represent locations. Hearts represent people, and diamonds represent ideals. What are the 2 lasting impacts? Let's each pick one of these cards to be a lasting impact of the crisis event that unfolded.
Okay, so when you say spades is superhero shit, what do you mean? Because I have a spade.
Spades are superhero stuff, powers, iconography, catchphrases, themes, weird stuff like time travel or exotic pets, all of that kind of thing. Robots and fortresses of solitude, like all of the larger-than-life stuff that exists only in superhero comic books.
Okay. So the card I have is a 4 of spades, which we used to have marked as the goddess of prosperity. Well, it still is marked that. But we defeated the goddess of prosperity, right? Yes.
Yeah.
So, but I like the image of everyone comes out of this shared hallucination that we're having, that they were the only people left on Earth in this post-apocalyptic world. And in a way, I see there being almost an age of prosperity that emerges as people very much come together and try as much as they can to find human connection and work together and build together. Everyone has tried that whole loner in the woods thing and is over it.
It doesn't work. It does not work. And so people are now working together. That is beautiful, and I love that.
So, yeah, I see, at least for, like in terms of like a golden age after a war, it's kind of like a prosperous age after this bleak silence.
I love that also because it kind of like maybe we get a brief sequence, because this does involve the goddess of prosperity. We get a brief sequence of like her in her palace, her space palace, which if she is the goddess of prosperity, like it's like Hanging Gardens, right? Like it's the picture of opulence, and we see her looking at Earth, and we see her looking at all these people like working together, and she's like, I'm not too proud to admit when I was wrong. And she doesn't say this to anyone, but we see this moment where she acknowledges that this is becoming a place that deserved, that should have lived and should not have been consigned to silence.
Yeah.
A little bit of a face turn. We love to see it. We love a good villain redemption story. So I have altered my queen of spades. Because what I think the remnants that exist, and maybe this is a change in CICADA's story going forward. I think that he is less like world traveling now, like less like openly powerful, less of a Morpheus and more of a John Constantine. Like he just kind of shows up and solves problems more subtly.
Yeah.
But I think that there are also like more direct threats, because I wrote down a haunted world.
Ooh.
I think that those remnants of the world that Spotlight created in each person's mirror dimension, some of those have just bled through. So like that false Superman that believed he could be the only one to fix the world, like, is out there, is wandering, is wandering back alleys being like, I've got to save the day. Somebody's got to do this. Yeah. And those ghost trucks are driving down a highway, and like, it is marked by these terrible haunted things.
And that makes complete sense. Not everyone can bounce back from the experience of being that desperate and lonely without carrying a few ghosts with them.
I'm trying to decide if I want to do one more arc. I think I do. I think we've got time for one more arc just for GAMNA, because I want to see how this plays out.
Okay.
Because I know we've been talking about this. Do you want to do a gritty reimagining?
Yes, I absolutely do.
All right, then let's do it. Let's make it happen. So, add 2 new blank cards to your deck. Let me tell you if they need to be of a certain suit, or if it can be just the top 2 cards off of your overall deck. Add 2 new fresh cards of any 2 different suits to your pile of cards.
Okay. I have the Queen of Spades and the Jack of Diamonds.
All right. So, in this new world, right? This world of prosperity, but marked by straight up like horror monsters around every corner. We start with a turn for the worse. You were doing what you normally do when things suddenly went sharply and suddenly downhill. Draw 2 cards, and you're going to assign one or both of them to statements. So draw 2 cards, and then I will tell you what the statements are.
Okay. I have... Oh, interesting. I have the 8 of Spades, which is the white tiger shift with predatory silence, and the 3 of Hearts, which is Nani and the family boon.
Would you like to assign one of these or both of these? Spades is you are doing something involving this. Hearts is you are doing something with this person. Diamonds is living up to this principle. And clubs, you are here with these people. So it can be something involving your powers or something involving Nani and the family boon.
This is a grim, dark reimagining. It has to be Nani.
All right. What are you doing in this moment?
I think in this world, after everything has been quote unquote solved and everything is prosperous, I think you get a quiet moment of Gamna with Nani. Nani no longer has to lead this resistance. Things have kind of come back to normal. And I see them together in a garden. Nani's gardening. Gamna's in human form on a hammock, but very much swatting at flies like she's a cat.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just this... It's a very quiet moment before things take a turn for the worse.
All right, draw 2 more cards. And you're going to assign, again, one or both of them.
Okay.
Would you like to also assign your spade to you were doing something with your powers? I guess I should have asked.
We did... The tiger was around a lot.
Okay.
In the last one,
that
so
feels
yeah,
good.
I'm okay with it not being here.
All right, so two new cards, and then you're going to assign one or both of them.
The 2 new cards. The first one I pulled was the 4 of Spades, which is currently the Age of Prosperity. And the other card is the Ace of Diamonds, which is greater good over personal desires.
All right, so Spades, this suddenly rampaged out of control and ruined everything. Hearts, this person showed up and started causing trouble. Diamonds, a situation arose which challenged this principle. Clubs, this place or group was suddenly in harm's way. Do you want to challenge the principle of greater good? Do you want that to be what goes haywire, or the Age of Prosperity?
Given that the greater good was at the heart of the last one, I'm going to go with the Age of Prosperity. Also because we know what goes up has to come down.
We do. So what goes wild in this moment?
I think the Age of Prosperity has created this need for people to be okay at the expense of denying the truth that they're not.
Mm.
The time for loneliness, the time for despair is over. You will behave as though it is, even if you're not okay. And I just see that. I mean, that's like a insidious poison that ruins things from the inside out over time. And the question is, what suddenly rampaged out of control? I think enough people hitting their breaking point.
Yeah, something happens. And this actually nicely segues into the next thing that we're going to do. Something like somebody trips the event that kind of collectively forces everybody, including Gamna and Nani, to indicate, actually, we're not okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what's going to happen. Draw cards from your deck until you find a diamond card.
Okay.
And if you don't have any more diamond, all right. Is there anything marked on the card?
It is an unmarked Jack of Diamonds.
All right, you're gonna set that card aside.
Okay.
Because that is your breaking point for this arc. We may add other cards to that section to represent like what happens when you break, but you've got your breaking point set aside.
Okay.
Now you're going to deal cards from your deck until you find a suitable villain. Because this is going to be the villain that activated or that revealed to the world that they were not okay. Somebody does something to reveal to the world that the facade of happiness is just that.
I have an unmarked King of Hearts. The only other heart in my deck is the Cicada.
Okay. That feels so we've got we can write something onto this deck. What is the first villain? So it's a what does it say? It says unmarked, they are a powerful supervillain who emerges in a big way. And what do they do to activate something awful? I have a pitch if you need one.
Yes, please.
Feel free to shoot this down. Is it Dracula?
Oh my gosh, my brain is not going that way, but I love it because, yeah, I mean, we have to get the full set.
We got, I feel like if your superhero story doesn't have Dracula in it at some point, like, is it really a superhero comic?
Truly, what are you doing? Okay, I'm writing down Dracula on the King of Hearts.
That feels good. That feels like a good card for Dracula.
It really does.
So what does Dracula, what is the thing that Dracula does? Like, how does Dracula, make himself known and shake people to their core?
Dracula is a psychic vampire.
Okay.
Dracula feeds on despair.
Oh, fuck. Yeah, that's good.
And so Dracula comes out and basically takes center stage and broadcasts to the world, essentially saying, aren't you tired of pretending you're all okay? You don't need to anymore. I welcome you as you are. Come, tell me how you really feel. It just feeds off of that.
Great. That rules. That's good. Good. I love this. This is great. Okay. This brings us to the price of morality. You keep doing things the right way, the moral way, the good way, and what have you achieved? How much more harm could you have prevented if you just took a shortcut now and again? Draw 2 cards, and you're going to assign one or both of them to a statement.
Okay. Let's draw 2 cards. Wow, this is the round for all the unmarked cards. I've got an unmarked Queen of Spades, and I've got the Ruin of the Ruins, the 9 of Clubs.
All right. Clubs is the villain's activities threaten the landscape or the environment, and Spades is the villain is trying to carry out a grandiose super scheme.
I like
Which one would you like to assign?
I like a grandiose super scheme. Yeah, mostly because I want to mark all these cards.
That feels good.
Okay, what is I mean, Dracula's super scheme is ultimately to
feed on the
live
hopelessness
forever.
of a war. Yeah.
Yeah. Live forever. The world is full of tasty morsels of despair. He just wants them all.
And that sets up our stakes. That sets up what is on the line here, is that Dracula is going to live forever feeding on the misery and hopelessness of these people. Which rules? I just need to take a moment and say that rules. Now you're going to draw 4 more cards. Once you're done marking up that card, you're going to draw 4 more.
Okay. Do I put the 9 of Clubs back in, or do I just leave it out?
The 9 of Clubs.
That was the Ruin of the Ruins that I didn't use.
Put it in your Discord pile, and then if you get down to 0, you'll shuffle everything back together.
Okay. All right. So 4 cards. All right. I have 5. So I've got.
All right, and you're.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
You're gonna assign 2 of those to statements. So what do you got?
All right. I have the 8 of Diamonds, which is light through darkness. I've got the 5 of Hearts, which is the Cicada. I've got an unmarked 2 of Clubs, and I have got the 7 of Spades, which is Space Gods.
Super interesting. All right. I'm just gonna read you all of the options, and then you tell me which one you're most interested in.
Okay.
For Spades, the involvement of this superhero element only makes things worse, or the villain's plan runs out of control. Hearts, this person is also on the scene complicating things, or the villain's emotions get the better of them and they improvise. Diamonds, there's an easy solution to their problem, but this principle won't let you take it. or the villain's dedication to their goals give them the strength to resist you. Clubs, this is where everything is happening, and clubs, the villain's plan reaches its climax and widespread destruction of the nearby environment.
Okay, I love the idea of the involvement of the space gods making everything worse.
That does rip.
Because, yeah, like, that, it seems right. Gods getting involved, things get worse. Like, that's just how it should go. And then, so for the heart card, the second one you said is the villain's emotions get better of them and they improvise.
Yeah, and they change their plan.
And so how does the person listed on the card come into play there, I guess is the question.
That's a great question. I would maybe suggest that they had something to do with like that, with causing them to forcing them to change their plan, perhaps. We're
gonna go with my buddy, the cicada, and space gods. Those are the two we're going with then.
All right. God, I have a vision. I would love to. I think what happens is like there is a fight scene. There is absolute. Okay, I'm gonna grab the wheel of my buddy the cicada.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna put the cicada in a particular position because I think it's gonna force GAMNA into doing some interesting things. I think cicada like shows up to put a stake through Dracula's heart and fails. I think there is a fight scene. I think there is a fight scene of like using all of the power that he's got left, like causes this swirling mass of chaos, and the way that he makes it worse is he fails. His soul is trapped in a jar, which does not kill him, but does give Dracula the cicada's soul in a jar, which means that Dracula now has control over this like swirling chaotic energy. Then can use that and has a new power source at his will.
Ooh. I love that.
And how do the space gods fuck things up at the same time?
God, how don't they? I love the space gods doing things that are... We have to pull from, like... Now we have to go towards, like, you know, Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder gods, where they're just, like, not helpful. I see the gods, like... The space gods coming in and trying to like get purchase with these people who are either still pretending nothing's wrong or are so sad and just full of despair that Dracula's feeding on them. And I want them to go to the despairing people and be like, come follow me. I can make you happy.
Oh, that's great. I like that. That's wonderful. And then like it makes there's this whole the fact the space gods using this as like for lack of a better way to put it, like a turf war is great.
Yeah.
Like space gods showing up and being like, great, time to get some followers, time to get some clout is really
don't listen to that guy. Me, I'm the person. And it's like, I'm really miserable. No, with me you won't be miserable. How? Don't worry about it. It just won't happen anymore.
That's great. That rules.
It's just like driving these people crazier.
It's great. It's great. I love that all of this is unfolding. All of this is standing in GAMNA's way. So draw 2 more cards.
Okay, I don't have any.
All right, then you are going to shuffle your
card.
deck. You're gonna draw that 1 card. Then you're gonna shuffle all of your remaining cards together and just draw the top card.
And I'm leaving that breaking point aside, right?
Correct. That is correct.
Okay. So the last card that was left was the 10 of clubs, which is the co-op / control center, former control center of the Menace. And I have to draw 1 more card, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Wow. Guess who it is again?
Who is it?
It's my buddy, the cicada.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Oh, wow. This really is a gritty oh, wow. Whoa, buddy. So the club's prompt is the destruction is too large scale for you to prevent. What scar on the landscape, the ruins of the ruins, former space of this resistance, what does that damage look like?
Oh, this is the co-op. This is the
Oh, this is the co-op. Oh,
yeah.
Jeez. What is that? Oh my God, what does that look like?
It is the destruction of Gamna's home.
Oh my god. Like, in the fight, like, you take the fight to Dracula and, like, your home is just destroyed.
Yeah, I think Dracula, someone who feeds on despair, decides, what if I fed on Gamna's despair and destroys the co-op as a means to get her in a place where he can feed on her. This deliberate move to weaken her.
Oof. Yeah, it's to take away your hope. You still have hope and defiance, and this was a calculated attack to take that away as somebody that could realistically stop Dracula.
Mm-hmm.
And the heart prompt. The cicada is killed as events unfold. Why were you not able to save them?
Oh no. I think. Oh no. How much? Oh no. How emo are we going?
It's a gritty reimagining. It's
a gritty reimagining. I think Gamna has to make a choice. And the choice is the cicada in the jar or everybody still inside the co-op.
Ooh.
As it's being ripped apart. So the family she had chosen before any of this happened, and the family Gamna made as all this was happening.
And and the jaw, and like in the fight, like the Dracula cracks the jar.
Yeah, I
and
just
like,
see him.
Dust flies into the air, and the cicada is destroyed. You failed. The villain won and got away. Whatever stakes were set, those happen now. So he takes control. Like we see this is Dracula, Castle Dracula now floats in the sky, and he feeds on the hope of a world without heroes.
No, I'm so sad about it. So this is the breaking point, not the stakes. Yeah. Oof.
Yeah, so now we get to that breaking point.
Okay.
Let me read this through. Move all the cards in your breaking point to limbo. So you're gonna get rid of that one card for now. You can add it to your deck after this, but in the event of a shuffle, you won't shuffle that diamond back in. It'll stay exactly where it is.
Okay.
Now you're gonna shuffle all of your cards back together and deal out 1/4 of the cards in front of you.
Okay. So all except the diamond.
Yep, everything except the diamond, and then you are going to count out. You should have 10 cards in your deck, so probably draw out 3.
I have 12.
Okay, then draw out 4. Or no.
A quarter, you said?
Yeah,
so
that's still 3. Yeah. Math, look, I majored in English for a reason.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I've got 7 of spades, space gods, 9 of clubs, the ruin of the ruins. And my friend who's haunting me, the cicada, and the 5 of hearts.
The 3 questions. Does this element fit with your new colder self? If not, amend the card accordingly. Hearts, does their relationship with this person stay the same? If not, amend the card appropriately or move it to limbo if they're going to be out of the picture for a while.
I think my buddy has to go to limbo.
Yeah, he's out of the picture. And spades, is your relationship with this place or group the same? If not, amend the card appropriately. So, how does your relationship with the space gods changed?
I think Gamna is bitter and angry at them. Instead of coming and helping, because I think the way Gamna looks at it is, if the space gods had stopped jockeying for power for 2 minutes and actually showed up at the co-op to protect the innocent people there, Gamna could have saved Jerry.
Yeah.
I don't think Gamna blames herself for not being in 2 places at the same time, but it's just that there
are people that could have been in that second place and they weren't.
Yeah, how about omnipotent benevolent beings?
So what I want you to do is write enemies on that card, and then you're going to mark it. It says a dynamic in the game that I think is great for this scenario. You're also going to mark that card with a grim symbol, whatever that means to you.
It's going to be a skull, because I can't draw anything else. All right, we got a skull on it.
All right. Is your relationship with clubs, is your relationship with this place or group still the same?
The ruins of the ruins? I think in a way, Gamna's attachment to that place is probably stronger now because it was the last place they were all happy together.
Mm-hmm.
Where Henry and Jerry and Nani and everybody started their fight back. Like that place is filled with memories of hope. And now whether they get twisted into being way more than they should is a different story. But I think, if anything, it's become maybe a little too precious.
Mm-hmm. I like that. All right. Then now you're going to draw 2 more cards as we enter into the new you and we see how things have changed.
Okay.
You're going to draw 2 cards. You're going to assign one of them to a statement.
Okay. We've got an unmarked 2 of clubs. Then we've got Dracula.
All right. Which Dracula is a heart?
Dracula's a heart, yes.
Okay. You can choose to do either or both of these. Either heart is this person leads you to the villain, or clubs, the villain is here or with these people.
I like our psychic vampire having successfully induced a deep, bone-shattering despair in Gamna, calling Gamna towards himself.
Calling you out.
Yeah.
Look, you think you can still fight. Come fight me.
Exactly. All
right, draw 2 more cards. Unless do you want to assign that club, or do you want to leave that for now?
Nah, I'm good leaving it for now, because let's go to Castle Dracula. That's always fun. All right, we've got the 8 of diamonds, which is the light through darkness. And we've got the 8 of spades, which is the white tiger shift.
You can assign one or both of these to the following statements. Spades, you're not holding back anymore. And diamonds, principles are a luxury you cannot afford.
Oh, I think we have to use both.
I think we're using both.
Yeah. We've gone feral. The white what if Gamna has basically stopped shifting back to human?
Oh, shit.
Because the tiger can better focus on the need for survival and the primal instincts. And,
oh, snap.
And light through darkness is a luxury you cannot afford.
What does the villain expect you to do which you don't?
I think the villain expects ultimately Gamna to stand by the principles of what you're doing is wrong, and it's the I will not stoop down to your level. It's like that, that typical, if we do this, we're just as bad as them. Gamna doesn't care.
Yeah.
I will be as bad as you, but I will destroy you.
And how are your powers enhanced by your lack of restraint?
I think we finally see the full extent of them.
Mm-hmm.
Morality and the fight for there must be a difference between us and the villains has stopped Gamna from using the full extent of her power, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, well, what's the point of an us and a them if they keep winning?
Yeah. And so unleashing your full power, stooping down to Dracula's level, you defeat Dracula. Do you kill them?
Yes.
Puja, can you do something for me that I'm extremely excited about?
Yeah.
Can you do this direct, as close to your microphone as possible so we get the audio? Can you rip that card in half in front of your microphone? Perfect. I'm so happy about this.
Whee! There we go.
It's real satisfying to the game really does push you to destroy a deck of playing cards, and it is admittedly really satisfying.
Look at this little King of Hearts.
All right. Now you're going to take that breaking point card.
Whew, okay.
I want you to write down a memory, a few words of what Gamna's memory of this moment is onto that card, and then shuffle it into your deck.
Oof. Okay. So shuffle everything, or just that card into the remainder of the deck?
Shuffle. You're going to shuffle everything back together. This is the end of the game. But what did you write on the card?
Jerry in a jar being shattered into the air.
Oh, wow. Okay, good. Yes, excellent. I love this. Yeah, and that is the end of our story. I have a tiny post coda. We see the funeral. Is Gamna at Jerry's funeral back in Morrison, Kansas?
There is a tiger at the back of the crowd.
Love it. Love that we see the tiger in the back of the crowd. The funeral service happens. It is lovely. And we see Henry, standing over the grave, finally, gets quietly back in his car as, joins the procession. And we see a close-up crawling along the dashboard is a single small bug that finally lands on Henry's wrist and bites. And we see the little tiny, lines of a bite. And Henry, blinks for a second, and then his eyes go very, very wide, and slowly the iris starts to just fill in the rest of his eyes. And he goes, "Hey, babe, took you long enough." And slowly, the color starts to flush from his face, and that is our closing beat, and that is C-Issue X, the crossover special. Puja, thank you so much for coming back. This was great.
I had such a good time.
Damn, I love this game. This game rules so much. I love it truly, truly with all of my heart.
God, my emotions got rocked in that one.
Right? Fuck. Good game.
Good game.
Good game.
And really lived up to its promise of grimdark. My God.
Really, really did. Very well mapped out, grim dark storyline. Did not hold back. Very pleased.
Mm-hmm.
So, real quick, before we wrap up, where can people find you and your work online?
Well, at the moment, people can find me on Twitter at Puja, but in case that has disappeared by the time this comes out, you can also find me on Tumblr at Puja and at Pujabberwocky on all other platforms. And just say hi, poke around. You'll see my streaming schedule is usually in the bio of all of these different websites. So come find me.
All right. Well, thank you again so much for doing the show as always. This is so much fun. God damn, this was good. And for now, I want to throw it over to me in the future so that he can wrap up with the show. Take it, future me. Thanks, past me. And thanks again to Puja for coming on the show. That game was mind-blowingly good and cool, and I loved listening to it so much. And I love this game. I love playing games with my good friend Puja. Everything about this ruled. Now be sure to head to potatocubed.itch.io to pick up your own copy of C-Issue X, and be sure to follow Puja on Twitter and Tumblr at Puja, everywhere else on the internet at Pujabberwocky. Then while you're on Twitter, follow us at Party of One Pod, like us on Facebook at facebook.com/Party of One Podcast, find us on TikTok at Party of One Podcast, find us on Tumblr at Party of One Pod, subscribe to our newsletter at buttondown.email/Party of One Podcast, and join our Discord community at bit.ly/Party of One Discord. If you enjoy the show, there's a lot of ways to support it. You can support us financially at patreon.com/JeffStormer or ko-fi.com/JeffStormer. You can give us a nice iTunes review, shout us out to a friend, give us some love on social media. You can buy some Party of One merch at bit.ly/Party of One merch. Or if you're looking for more great podcast content, you can check out All My Fantasy Children, which is a character creation, storytelling, and world-building podcast that I make with my best friend in the world, Aaron Catano Saez. We take a listener-submitted prompt and spin it into an original fantasy character, populating a shared universe one story at a time. You can also check out Yazeba's Bed and Breakfast, which is an actual play about a heartless witch, a cozy house, and the many people making their homes inside. Both of those you can find wherever you get your podcasts. Party of One is, as always, produced and edited by Jeff Stormer and Jen Frank. Music for the show comes from the song Infinite Lives by Mega Ran featuring the D&D Sluggers, and the Party of One logo is by Evan Rowland. If you'd like to inquire about advertising rates, coming on the show as a guest, or about press coverage of the show, you can email me at partyofonepodcast@gmail.com. And unless I am mistaken, that is all we do here. So until next time, thank you so much for listening. Remember to fight the forces of fascism every single day. Remember that self-love and self-care are radical and defiant acts of resistance. And as always, party on, everybody.